Today, we're digging into a geopolitical move so bold it could literally reshape the global balance of power. Stick with us, and by the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly how a 200-year-old doctrine is being brought back to life to decide who controls the world's most vital resources. And it all boils down to this one huge question. Was the capture of a sitting president a clean, surgical strike against crime? Or was this the first shot fired in a much bigger, much more dangerous game for energy and global dominance? Okay, let's get right into it. To really understand what's at stake here, we need to go back and walk through the shocking events of one single day, January 3rd, 2026. So picture this. In the early morning hours, the first domino falls. In a lightning-fast operation, U.S. Special Forces raid the presidential palace in Caracas. They take President Nicolas Maduro and the First Lady into custody. Just like that. And almost instantly, we get the official story. See, they aren't being treated as political prisoners. Not at all. They're presented as criminal suspects, immediately flown to the United States to face some very old, very serious narcotics trafficking charges. But here's where it gets really interesting. At the exact same time, thousands of miles away, in the icy North Atlantic, a completely different drama is playing out. Washington starts making a whole lot of noise about foreign vessels near Greenland, suddenly escalating a long-simmering dispute into a matter of urgent national security. Well, the global reaction was, you could say, swift and furious. In a rare joint statement, Moscow and Beijing just came out swinging. They condemned the whole thing, calling it a total collapse of international law, basically saying the gloves are off and we're back to an era of might makes right. So this one day ends up creating two completely opposite versions of reality. Let's break down these competing stories because it's pretty wild. On one side, you have the White House. Their story is that this is all about restoring order, taking out a corrupt narco state, and frankly, countering the energy gluttony of their rivals. But for Moscow and Beijing, they're saying no way. For them, the drug charges are just a flimsy excuse, a convenient pretext for a power grab after their own promises to protect Caracas totally failed. And this leaves America's allies in Europe, well, kind of stuck in the middle and in a really awkward spot. Publicly, you get these very careful, very vague statements about due process, but behind the scenes, the reality is a cold shock. They were completely blindsided, totally cut out of the loop, which really just highlights their loss of strategic power. Okay, so this is where we have to connect the dots, because the link between a leader arrested in South America and a frozen island in the Arctic, well, that turns out to be the key to this whole puzzle. I mean, you have to ask yourself, right? If the mission was really just about arresting one guy on drug charges, why coordinate it with a major geopolitical play in the Arctic Circle at the exact same moment? Because when you lay it all out side by side like this, the picture gets crystal clear. The official reasons, the drugs, the foreign ships, they start to look a little thin. And what's really underneath? Two things: critical resources and absolute geographic control. And that underlying strategy, that grand plan, it actually has a name. It's the revival of a foundational 200-year-old American foreign policy, but it's been supercharged for the resource wars of the 21st century. So let's do a quick history lesson. The original Monroe Doctrine, way back in 1823, was basically a giant keep-out sign. It was America telling the old European empires, hey, this half of the world, it's our backyard, don't even think about it. Now fast forward to today. Monroe Doctrine 2.0 is the same core idea, but the game has changed. It's not about old-world colonialism anymore. Now, it's all about locking down the raw materials you need to fuel the future. We're talking energy, minerals, the whole shebang, and making sure your global competitors can't get their hands on them. And this whole thing wasn't just random. It seems to follow a very specific playbook. Step 1, find a target that's loaded with resources but has a weak government. Step 2, create a public justification, something everyone can get behind. Step 3, act with overwhelming speed, a sort of PR blitzkrieg to distract from problems back home. And finally, step 4, consolidate your control over the assets. So what exactly are the prizes here? What's so valuable that it makes a high-risk strategy like this worth it? Well, the first part of the answer is a number, and it is a huge one: $100 billion. That's the estimated investment analysts say is needed to turn Venezuela's enormous heavy oil fields, the largest on Earth, into usable reserves. It's a colossal investment, yeah, but the potential payoff is even more staggering. And we're not just talking about any old resources.
This is the specific type of heavy oil you need for the AI and tech industries. It's the rare earth minerals in Greenland that are essential for every single piece of modern electronics. And maybe the biggest prize of all, control over the new shipping lanes opening up in the melting Arctic. It's about getting what you need while denying it to everyone else.
So what does this all mean for the world? What happens when this kind of action stops being shocking and just becomes the new standard for how a global power operates? There's a deep, deep irony at the heart of all this. The operation is being sold to the world as a liberation. But before a single new vote can even be planned in Caracas, word is there are already discussions happening in Washington about who to appoint as an interim governor to oversee the country's assets. And you have to wonder, how is this even possible? Well, military analysts are pointing to one key factor: betrayal from within Maduro's own inner circle. Its success apparently hinged on it. And that right there, it just reveals the deep fragility of these authoritarian regimes, a weakness that this Monroe 2.0 playbook is perfectly designed to exploit. Which leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. In a world of fierce competition for scarce resources, have we just entered a new era where international law takes a backseat to the simple, raw rule of force? We've just explored the physical force, right? The boots on the ground used to secure these resources. But that's only half the story. The next step is building the financial architecture to control it all. Join us for part 2, where we investigate the potential end of the petrodollar. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.